Welcome to The Jewish Lens, a podcast to discuss anything and everything from a Jewish perspective. Now, please help me welcome the man who controls the media, your host, Jonathan Rosen.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of The Jewish Lens. I'm Jonathan Rosen, and today I am thrilled to welcome an award-winning writer. She's been a journalist for close to 40 years and has written for such places as the New York Daily News, Forbes, and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. She's interviewed people such as Wolf Blitzer, Andy Gibb, Hank Aaron, and Usher. Her book, Hands of Gold, has won many awards and is derived from audio recordings from her grandfather. Please help me welcome Roni Robbins. Roni, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. So excited.
Well, we have a lot to cover, but I want to start by going back with you. First, where did you grow up and what was your family life like, and especially with regard to Judaism?
I grew up on Long Island.
Did you?
In a place, yes.
Where?
Hauppauge.
Okay.
Hauppauge, Suffolk, the heart of the county seat of Suffolk County.
I lived in Long Island for a while, but I'm from Brooklyn. Yes.
I know that. And very Jewish upbringing. I don't know. I wasn't Orthodox. I was conservative. And I had bat mitzvah, and I was involved in USY, and I was president of USY for my dinky little chapter in Hauppauge. I shouldn't say that. Probably grown now, but it was small. Conservative Jews on Long Island. The majority are Reform, I imagine.
USY as well. Yes.
Yeah, USY. And went to Hebrew high school, I got a bat mitzvah, but that's a different story. It was sort of fake, in my opinion. I'm going to redo it in the proper way. We don't have to talk about that.
No, I have to hear this. Why was it fake? What made it fake for you?
My mom will say it was a real bat mitzvah, but it was on a Sunday, and the boys got Saturday. Okay. And it didn't bother me then because that's how things were done. Mm-hmm. But so I was told, read this, it's about Jewish women. And so to me, now looking back, it felt fake, since my daughter had the full-on Shabbat, wear a tallis, get a tallis, treated the same. And now women are allowed up on the bima. Okay. This didn't happen then. Women didn't wear prayer shawls. They were sort of second-class citizens in the conservative traditional movement, I should say. So that's just the way it was.
So you're going to do it again? You're planning on redoing it?
Yeah, I won't tell you the anniversary that I'm going to be celebrating, but I'm going to rectify the situation. I feel very strongly about being a Jewish woman and having the same rights as Jewish men, but it took a long time for this to be like that. My mom had a bat mitzvah on a Friday. Many women of her generation didn't have bat mitzvahs. Friday night, I guess. Friday and Sunday, second-class citizenship. I'm sorry, but that's the way it was. And I was probably smarter. I'm not, saying anything that's inaccurate, I don't think. But I think I was smarter than a lot of the Jewish boys in my Hebrew school class. I was valedictorian or salutatorian, I'm not sure. But I can't remember, but I was up there, and my mom was a Hebrew school teacher. So Judaism was part of my life, very much so. All the holidays, we kept kosher. My grandparents were a big part of the whole Jewish experience in Rego Park, New York. They were in Philadelphia later on, but they were in Rego Park. They were in New Jersey. So they were part of my Jewish experience too. It was a full package of 3 generations. And we got together for the holidays in New York, in the city. And so, and I became Hillel president in my senior year of high school, college. I was a leader. I was a writer. I was a leader.
I was going to ask you about that, the writing, yes.
So at the same time that my journalism skills were taking off, say in high school, I was also leading USY and going to all kinds of conventions and all.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But in college, I was going up the ranks of the school newspaper.
I'm going to ask about that. So wait, let me go back to this. So what are you going to do now for your bat mitzvah now? Where are you going to do it again?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, where there's a lot of New Yorkers now too. But in my synagogue, I am given all the rights of a Jewish man. I'm allowed to take an aliyah, if you know what that means.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, you're the Jewish lens. You know what everything means probably. But so I get an aliyah. I'm a bat kohen. I take that responsibility seriously. I get to have the first aliyah as a kohen, as a bat kohen. So I am going to not do too much though, because it's hard.
Fantastic.
But I'm not going to lead the whole service, but I'm going to do a little bit. Okay.
Okay. I want to ask something, because going back to your family growing up, I want to know if I read this correctly. Your family has a blacksmith business?
That's my next book, so stay tuned.
Well, I have to hear about that. So,
okay.
What was that like for your family? Did you grow up involved in that?
Yes. We wore colonial costumes at crafts fairs all over New York, and we traveled and went visiting blacksmiths in different states, which was so very exciting for a young girl. But my parents developed a business. My dad developed a business in our garage business. Aren't there a few of those that have been very successful in the tech world? You start out in a garage, or garage bands, right? Garage bands. Mm-hmm. And then you've got a garage blacksmith shop. So on Long Island, in a little cul-de-sac on Long Island, can you imagine this? The neighbors really liked us with the smoke coming out of the chimney and all of that, even in the summertime. Those crazy Jewish, what are they doing? They didn't understand us to begin with, because we were Jewish too. So my father started this business. He also was an engineer and worked for Grumman Aerospace, so he was a very smart man. And he started this business, and then he retired from Grumman, and he just did this full time. And then we moved to North Carolina, in Asheville, North Carolina. That's very artsy. And my brother now manages the business, runs the business. My brother took over from my father. My father passed away about 2 years ago, but he really built something amazing and different. And you don't hear about that too often, right?
No, that's incredible. I thought that was fascinating when I read that. Book. Yeah, no, I can't wait to see that one. So, so you just said you always liked to write. What age did you start realizing that you had a talent for it? That this is something that I'm good at?
I won a Mother's Day poetry contest for the Newsday. Wait, was it Newsday or Penny Saver on Long Island? And my mom got all kinds of gifts, and I got a 10-speed bike. And that was a big thing back then. Somebody had stolen mine, so this replaced it. It was like. So that was poetry, right? So I thought I was going to be a musician. I took lessons from a really good-looking boy who could have been a movie star, but he was a musician instead, and thought, I want to be a musician. But then I realized I just liked to write the lyrics to the songs, that I wasn't actually that good. But I liked calligraphy. I liked writing. I just anything writing, just even my penmanship. And so high school, a very popular girl, popular was very, very important back then.
Of course.
And I was not popular. I was very shy, but I was friends with some popular girls, go figure, and like homecoming queens and all. And they took to me. And I definitely saw the potential to be important or do something that one of the popular girls was doing. And I also was like, I can do that. That can be a career for me. She told me that she was going to take she was going to major in journalism. And this was senior year already. We didn't have to decide in freshman year what we were going to do with our lives. Right. But in senior year, she told me that she was going to, maybe it was junior year, but she told me she was going to major in journalism in school. And she was on this already doing some journalism in high school. So I took the yearbook class. I said, I can do that. I like to write. I can make money writing, I guess.
You pursued journalism because of this other girl?
Yes.
Okay.
She gave me the idea.
Right, okay.
So, I was good in English, but it wasn't until I did my first journalism class, it was the yearbook. And we all had the assignment to write something, and somebody said, read hers. I had shown her what I wrote, and she said, read hers, read mine. Some girl, a friend of mine liked what I wrote, and I read it, and the class was quiet, and I stopped because I didn't know why no one was saying anything. And the teacher goes, keep going. And it was just a magical moment. And she said, she's going to be our copy editor. And that time it meant I was going to write the opening copy to the yearbook and everything else. Well, a lot of everything else. And I was going to edit everyone else's stuff. So I had no idea. That's not actually what a copy editor does, but okay. You don't write as much as you edit. But that was a pivotal moment of, okay, this seems to be where I should be. Some teacher was telling you, you're good at something. Sure. And that's how it starts, right?
That's similar to how I started writing. As a high school teacher liked something that I wrote and told me after class. And that's like, I always say that, your parents are supposed to tell you. But when you hear it from someone else on the outside, it's like, your confidence level starts shooting up.
Right. So I got a journalism scholarship.
You worked for the papers in school too, you said?
In college, but I'm saying I got, after that experience, I had some clips, as they say,
right,
from writing the school for the school yearbook. I actually wrote submitted and got the opportunity to write the commencement program, a poem on the front of the commencement program for my graduating class. There were just signs. I got a journalism scholarship to the University of South Carolina from New York. I'm sure they were like, we got one. Yay, a New Yorker, a Jewish New Yorker. We don't have too many of those, right? So I didn't see it as that. I saw it as, wow, they think I'm good at journalism. I just started this. I'm getting a full scholarship. Oh my gosh, this is the sign, So I just kept going with it. I kept going with it. They gave me money, and that always is helpful. Right. And I started out in the school newspaper, reporter, then editor in chief. So at the same time I was Hillel president, I was editor in chief of the newspaper. So I don't know where I got such energy from. I don't have it today, or motivation, or anything.
Well,
I don't know where all.
Yes.
No, I do. But I was so ambitious then. You have so much energy when you first start, when you're young.
Well, what was your first job out of college? What did you get into a paper right away?
Yes, I did. I don't know about right away, but another friend of mine also was writing for that paper. Florida Today, USA Today in Melbourne, Florida. So I got friends there. So Melbourne, Florida, woohoo! But Florida, where you live. Yes. Who wouldn't want to live near the beach? Right. Although I never saw the beach, but lots of people came to visit me saying, oh, we'll go to Roni. She's at the beach, So, but I didn't get a lot of time to see the beach or enjoy being in such a beautiful.
Do you remember what your first real big assignment was as a journalist? That the first thing that you covered, that you wrote about?
Well, we covered the space launches from Cape Canaveral. So that was pretty exciting. I did interview Andy Gibb there.
I'm going to ask you about that. I'm going to get to those. Yes, I'm going to ask you about those in a few minutes. Yes.
Yeah. Space launches. So one of the space launches that was really exciting was I was on a Coast Guard cutter that if another Challenger explosion happened, so this is the this is not such a great story in that way, but if another Challenger explosion happened, we would have, in a Coast Guard cutter, gone and collected the pieces. Now that's morbid, but
wow.
Yeah, but there wasn't one. But there was, I have a very sensitive stomach, and we were on the ocean water, I think it's the ocean. And it was rough waters, and I was getting nauseous. I had this big clunky phone, and, it was in a big bag. Maybe that was also my camera. I mean, I was holding a lot of stuff, trying to write what's going on and feeling nauseous at the same time. So, the things that I had to go through, I went and covered beached whales and had to get in there.
Oh.
I wasn't going to interview the whale, but I was interviewing the people who were trying to rescue the whale, and they were out there. So that means you go out there. I don't know what I was wearing that day, but I'm sure that was ruined. Yeah. So
all right. So I looked at a lot of your journalism thing and quotes that you read. So one of the things that I read about you, which was impressive to me, was you stated that you try to keep bias out of your journalism. That shouldn't be like an impressive thing, because that should be the norm. But it's refreshing to see today, because it doesn't happen today. It's way more common now to let someone's personal slant affect the story. So I used to teach journalism in school, and that was one of the first things that I taught students, that you report the news, not take your take on the news. If you want to do an opinion piece, go ahead, but don't report it as fact. So how difficult was that for you to keep your own biases out of reporting?
Not hard. I think, and you're going to have to agree with me here, since you are, journalist, you have a journalist background of some sort. If it's going to be opinion, it's titled opinion. Right. Op-ed, review, something of that sort. I am not that writer. I am not that kind of writer. So I'm writing straight news. I'm writing features or whatever it is that I'm writing. There is no chance of getting my personal bias in. Now, some may say it goes in there. I did not intend it to go in there. I don't write about politics, so I've got a way out. I don't write about controversy, yes, but not politics. And if I do write about politics, I will take pains to make sure that my personal opinions aren't within the lines.
I agree with you totally, because I always used to say, while teaching, that if at the end of a course or class, whatever, that if my students knew my leanings, then I failed as a teacher. Because just report the news and not say skew them toward a way that I want them to go to, like that.
Yeah, well, so if you're seeing bias, I think certain publications and certain media outlets have their bias now.
Sure.
And so you will go to them for that bias,
right, of course,
if you agree with them. And I don't like when all the media are lumped together. I take offense when anyone says the media. I am the media. I feel like I'm the media. Now, I'm a very minor part of the media. You will argue, well, Roni, you write sort of fluffy stuff now. You write healthcare, or you write, I do. I write healthcare. There is some controversy in healthcare, right?
I can ask you about that too. Sure. Yeah. I see you write a lot of medical stories. So what draws you to that aspect? What to writing about that a lot? Because you do have a lot that you've covered for that.
And I am a woman of all trades, basically. I've written Jewish. I've written women. I've written about women. I've written about Jewish. Like, these are specialty areas of mine. I've written about environmental, business, and healthcare. So the healthcare sort of fell in my lap, right? You don't know yet, but I'm going to tell you. Atlanta Business Chronicle had an opening for a healthcare reporter. Okay. I was at the Jewish paper. I was a reporter at the Jewish paper, and I applied and did well on the test. And the opening was for healthcare. Had I ever written about healthcare? No, but I never wrote about a lot of subjects that I had to write about. The thing about, and you know this, you teach this, you know a lot about a small amount about a lot of subjects as a journalist, right? You don't know a lot about a lot, but you know a lot about a little. I don't know how that phrase goes, but little bits, so I'm not an expert in any of these areas. I'm not an expert in healthcare. I'm not I don't have any kind of medical degree. I am just a journalist who likes to write and will write about everything. So I found a niche because I got the healthcare business reporting job. So the business of healthcare. And then I did some other things and freelanced and what have you. And I was raising my kids. I was freelancing. I was writing this book. So I was doing a bunch of things. I don't regret any of it. So, so the healthcare, I was freelancing still for some healthcare publications, Biopharma Dive, WebMD, those come to mind. There were others, I think Healthline. But I got out of it and I was raising my kids. And I went back as an editor of the same publication where I was a reporter, the Atlanta Jewish Times. And I did that for a little bit. And then an opening was available at WebMD, Medscape WebMD, again, business of medicine. And I was an editor and a writer for them for a while. That was a big coup because they're huge. And I had not written for such a huge publication on a regular basis. My articles had been in Forbes. My articles had been in Huffington Post, 1 or 2 articles, nothing that I wrote directly for them. It got picked up and they printed it. So it was a big coup to work for a big publication like that, Medscape WebMD. And I got downsized and like many journalists, financially, media are having struggles. 6 months later, I applied to them and got back on as a freelancer. So I'm still sort of writing for them. And I also picked up about the same time the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, which is back to my roots as a daily newspaper reporter, which I had done for like 6 years at the beginning of my career. I'm nowhere near ending, but I'm just saying it's interesting how cyclical life is.
Well, yeah. And you said you've written for a lot of Jewish places. I saw Hadassah, Times of Israel, Atlanta Jewish Times. So when you write for all these places, I mean, first of all, did they you wrote for one and then others sought you out, or you just had to keep applying to them? And also just what kind of things did you have to do? It's just cover everything from a Jewish perspective in a lot of these things?
Let's see. I was at the Atlanta Jewish Times as a reporter in the 90s. Oh, I am dating myself. And for a while, 4 years or so. And then like I said, I went to the Business Chronicle and then I got out. I couldn't keep up with it anymore. It's a hard life, as a journalist. So maybe not for everyone, but it's not 9 to 5. Let's just say that it's when news breaks. I couldn't keep up with it with kids. So I was freelancing still. Well, hold on. So I freelanced for the Jewish Times a little bit, but I also freelanced for not from the Grapevine, but From the Grapevine was one of them, and Mother Nature Network. Many of these places, Jewish editors. Okay, let's just throw that in. The Jewish Network in Atlanta is amazing, and I would just say, you've read my stories in the Jewish Times. I was at the Business Chronicle. Whatever, I'd throw around my references, and they'd say, okay, here's a story, let's try you out. So Hadassah was just a one hit wonder, it was just one story that they assigned me about Atlanta. From the Grapevine, I had a relationship already with that editor through other Jewish circles. It started out at MNN, Mother Nature Network, and then half Jewish owned. I mean, I think yeah, if you look them up, you'll see how the connections from the grapevine was sort of an outgrowth of that media outlet. And so I wrote for them for a while, worked for the editor for a while. And then Jewish Times came back and found me, I think.
That's great.
I think they were like, we need an editor. And
they just saw your work and then asked you?
Well, again, I'm a known entity in Atlanta Jewish circles, right? I'm an usher at my synagogue every Shabbat. I am involved in the Jewish community. My daughter was Chabad president at UGA.
I love Chabad.
Yeah, they're great. They really know what they're doing in recruiting young people into you give them alcohol, they will come. Hillel didn't quite get this, but maybe they do. But anyway, yeah, we love the Chabad. They've done wonders for my daughter, my son too. Did I answer all your questions?
No, you did. I want to talk about some of the people you interviewed, like just amazing people. Like, let me ask you first about Hank Aaron. I mean, what an amazing person. So, what was that? What was he like when you interviewed him?
Humble, unassuming, not a diva. He didn't have a huge ego. Did I already say that? It was an assignment. I was sent to the assignment. I probably just covered the event and then asked to speak with him for a little bit. I don't remember exactly, but it's always impressive to people about the celebrities. I wish there were more. There's only been a handful, and some of them have just been like Wolf Blitzer was probably a phone interview. For that one was probably at the USA Today, Florida Today, USA Today. That was earlier on. Hank Aaron was more recent. And I don't remember what publication I wrote that for, actually.
Well, I don't know if you know because I also do another podcast where I interview celebrities. So I do a second one also. So has there been anyone that has left that you've interviewed that you felt like a little bit starstruck? Like, I can't believe I'm talking to this person?
I think Usher was sort of a surprise. I was covering it for New York Daily News. I managed to get a gig with my hometown paper. They weren't really my hometown paper, but they're in New York. So that was exciting in itself to be able to be an Atlanta correspondent for them. But Usher, I was covering a court case, and his son had fallen into the pool. And for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, what did I say I was writing this for? New York Daily News. Let me get it straight. Sorry. All the media had gone out of the courtroom, and I was dilly-dallying. And I finally got it together and got out of the courtroom, and I saw him right away. So I didn't have time to really think. I was like, Usher, what do you think about the way that the court case went? And he goes, I just want what's right for my babies. And I'm like, oh my God, that's it. I didn't say it back to him, but I'm thinking, oh my God, that's right. So I was like, in high heaven, but I was also very flustered, like I just interviewed Usher, but I had no time to think about that because I had to get that quote to my editors and say, I just spoke with him directly. There was no other media around, and they,
you have an exclusive. Right.
Yeah, but I'm sure he went down and talked to the whole media assembly downstairs and was like, I just want what's right for my babies. But I don't remember. It was a custody battle. I'm sorry. Let me try to explain. His son fell in the pool. He was being accused of being a bad father, I guess. And I don't remember how it went. I'd have to look at the story. I think I don't know if it went well for him or not, but he just said, I want what's right for my babies. His mother was there with the child, or the grandmother was there. It wasn't his fault. I don't know. So it was very cool. Court cases are exciting in itself, but a court case with a celebrity to be able to be right in there was, whoa. Yeah. But that's also the most recent one.
No, it's amazing that you've interviewed several already. That's fantastic. So,
And my son is a minor celebrity, by the way. He was on Nobody Wants This. So
oh, really? Okay. What did he do on that?
He was a cowboy in the Purim scene, if you saw the show. So now
I haven't seen it. My family has seen it.
All
so
right. Okay, you didn't hear it. No spoiler alert. I don't think that ruins anything for anyone, but there's a Purim scene, okay?
I'll have to check it out then. I'll look for the Purim scene. So, okay, I want to ask you about your book, Hands of Gold. I found this incredibly fascinating. The book came about from recordings from your grandfather, right? So can you walk me through everything? I mean, how did this all happen? How did this come about for you?
My mom, who's a superstar, she gave me the cassette tapes. Cassette tapes. Do you remember cassette tapes?
How long was she holding these?
Oh, no. This was soon after they passed. So let's just, you have to do the math here, see, too, because I worked on this book a long time. Okay. And on and off while I was raising my kids. My kids are 20s now. So there you go. But my mom, as soon as when my grandparents died in the early 90s, a couple of years later, she got these tapes that my aunt had made. Okay. And I think my aunt is like, big mistake, big, huge. I just saw Pretty Woman, to quote, movies, but pop culture. But I don't think my aunt liked that I got these tapes, but I listened to the tapes, and first I just wrote a column for the Atlanta Jewish Times where I was a reporter. I was working full time then as a reporter. And I wrote a column. It was already fascinating to me. I listened to the tapes, and then I said, you know what? I still had my career for a number of years. And then when I decided I couldn't handle it all with kids and everything, I said, I'm going to raise my kids, but I'm going to transcribe I'm going to transcribe the tapes, and and then it just started. And I don't know if I was like, this is going to be a book or not. I guess I had it in my mind. It would be nice if it was. And I knew there was something there. There were a few little tidbits that made me think, as a journalist who knows how to spot a story, what makes a story and what doesn't make a story. I think I've perfected that. The editors don't always agree, but I think I can spot a story. And I thought this would be a story. I didn't know how to write a long story. I only knew how to write shorter stories, maybe a couple of thousand words, but not this long. So, but I knew there was something.
A couple of questions first. Why didn't your aunt want you to have them?
I didn't ask permission to use.
It should be something like I would think that they want the family to have. We can't talk about it, I guess.
Okay. I didn't ask permission. Ask permission. They weren't really my tapes.
Got it. Had you known any of these stories beforehand, and was this all new and surprising to you?
Some of it was new and some of it was surprising. I mean, they didn't talk about the Holocaust. The Holocaust is a very small part of the book, but they didn't talk about it. So everything was new. I knew people died in the Holocaust. I didn't know how many people of the family, I didn't know all my grandparents, brothers and sisters had died in the Holocaust.
Right.
He came. So there's a bit of that. I didn't know my grandfather tried to save people in a workplace shooting spree. I didn't even know he talked to a gunman. And I don't want to give too much of it away, right. But there's a shooting scene in New York that was actually captured in the New York Daily News, where I ended up freelancing for years later, cyclical. No idea this would happen. But there was a lot that I learned, yes. And it's based on truth. So I made up whatever wasn't as exciting as I thought it should be. Right. Yeah. And of course, I didn't know what they were talking about.
Had the goal always been to turn it into a book? Is that something that he wanted, or he just wanted to tell his story?
So he did actually say in one of the first tapes if somebody wanted to make a story about it, so be it. Something of that sort. That was the kind of language he used, was if somebody wants to do something with this, I don't know why I'm making these tapes, but if somebody wants to write something about it, So I took that as a message directly to me. It might not have been his intention. That's what I heard.
How is it going through for you? Just like to be connected to find out all these things about your family, to find out that you had family who perished, who were murdered in, the Holocaust, just finding out all these little things. I mean, how was it for you inside, I guess, connecting you to that, to your grandfather and all the other family that you didn't know about?
Just makes it so much more important that I'm here, that I do what I'm supposed to do in this life, that I make a difference. It could have been us, could have been me, could have been, I always think this, there, but for the grace of God go I. We were just, if he had stayed, I wouldn't be here. If he didn't get out between the wars, he would have had the same fate as they did. If the gunman had shot him. Right. There's all these other things, too. He had tuberculosis. He survived tuberculosis. He was part of an experimental treatment that saved his life and countless other lives. If he didn't make it through that, I mean, that was a death sentence back then. Everything would have been different. I would not be here. So I better be doing what I'm supposed to be doing and making a difference in this world, because I could have not been here.
No, he sounds extraordinary, and it's just something really special that he's dictating his life, and and then you are putting it into the pages. I thought that was just really such a sentimental, sweet thing. After just a great connection for the two of you to have, even if it's posthumously for him, but it's just such a nice connection to have with him. Yes,
it is. And I feel very proud of it.
And I read that the book had kind of an arduous journey to publication, that that you had problems the first time. So what happened there?
Well, I got 50 rejections. I wouldn't have known that, except I counted them one day. I kept all of them and was afraid to count, but I would have thought there were more than that. I just didn't give up. But I finally got a publisher after a total of maybe 20 years from start to finish, because I was determined to get a traditional publisher. Right. I am used to getting published. I am a published journalist. I wanted to be published in the best way. I don't know. It seemed like the top prize, the golden ticket to get published by a traditional publisher. And I wouldn't give up. I would have probably, if I got sick or got too old or something, but so I held out for that. Then I had a legal issue. I had worked with the first publisher that I found that agreed to take me on. I had a falling out with her over a legal issue involving the family member that I mentioned, and I think the main issue there was that I didn't portray all the characters as they might have wanted to be portrayed, and I didn't ask permission to use the tapes, and I did, and so basically they weren't mine, and I took some liberties with the information. I think I was accurate. Other family members thought I was pretty close to what the people were like, but there's a difference of opinion. And guess what? There's sex in the book, and nobody wants to read about sex involving their parents. So I definitely changed all the names and made up a bunch of stuff. And again, more dramatic. Was I there? No, that would have been awkward. Right. But I am the result of that aforementioned sex.
So you started getting recognized. I mean, you won awards from some really great Jewish organizations for this book. So just how rewarding is that for you now?
Were there Jewish organizations involved?
That's what I thought. I read. So.
Okay, International Global Book Awards and Global Book Awards. International Book Awards and Global Book Awards. Those were not Jewish.
Okay.
I don't think any of them were Jewish, the awards. The biggest thing was that I invested in myself and submitted to the Jewish Book Network, which is expensive proposition. And I got to be in the Jewish Book Festival here in Atlanta. And I like to say, one of my claims to fame is that I was in the same book festival as Nikki Haley, John Meacham, a bunch of other big names, and Benjamin Netanyahu remote. He was remote, little busy now, and he wouldn't even know who I am, nor would Nikki Haley, John Meacham, Jodi Picoult, and all the other big name authors. And then there was little me. So, some unknown chick who wrote a book about her grandfather's life.
You can write and say, we headlined the same festival together.
I use it. Right. You have to use it, right?
Of course.
But don't go to her and don't go to Nikki Haley and ask if she knows me. She will deny it. And so will Benjamin Netanyahu. And they are very controversial.
Well, they're both coming on next week, as a matter of fact, on this. So, no.
So I don't even think we agree to the same things sometimes. So it's not a political statement, but I guess some people would be like, I'm not buying your book. So, right? Yeah.
Well, okay. So you mentioned it a little bit now. Okay. So I want to ask what you are working on next. So is that what you were working on next, what you mentioned before?
Yes. My next book, working title is A Mighty Arm. And when you write a first book, and I think you've written a number of them, when you write your first book, people are like, when is your next book coming out? And I'm like, why can't I just rest on my laurels and be happy? Why do I have to? But no, I did start writing my dad book about my dad. He and I didn't get along. And so that's going to be interesting how I position that. It's in my mom's voice, and she and I do get along. So it's in my mom's voice. It is another romantic story. I mean, the Hands of Gold is also a love story in essence, a family saga. It's going to be interesting. Let's just say that. I have the beginning and I have the ending, and that the middle is so much harder. And you write, maybe it is for you too. I think yeah, it's hard. It's hard to find time. It's hard to find motivation. I have really no excuses except that I'm also freelancing, but I think I've gotten old, and it takes more of an effort to really turn everything off and just focus and just commit to it. But I really want to write this book. It's just so much easier to write freelance and write little things.
It's just a matter of finding the time, forcing yourself to find the time to sit down, just like, grabbing whatever amount that you can, like, even if it's like 20 minutes per day or something like that, or what, if you don't have that 20 minutes, every other day or a week, just grabbing whatever time you have and just putting something on paper.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So,
well, when that comes out, we'll definitely talk about that too. So how can people follow you on social media?
They can visit my website, RoniRobbins.com. They have to spell my name right. It's RoniRobbins. Social media. I'm Roni Kayne, Kayne. That's the name associated with my next book. No, I can't tell you that because I'm going to make up all the names. But Kayne was my maiden name. I did much better to add Robbins to it. Little clunky with the Kane there, but it's Roni Kayne Robbins. That's my Facebook. And most everything else is Roni Robbins. So I'm on.
Roni Robbins flows. Good alliteration there. So it's.
Yeah, how about that? Yeah. I think I'll keep him for his last name. So I am on, my son did my TikTok. I don't think I'm actually allowed to tell you this, but it's okay. They'll come after me. And my manages my TikTok, and so we've got some celebrity power there. And then my daughter manages my Instagram because I'm really not good at those things with the videos and everything. And I manage the rest of it. But I've got like a couple of Facebook platforms, and I've got accounts, and I've got does anyone use X anymore? I don't think so. And
I do. I most definitely
do. Do you?
Yes.
Okay. LinkedIn
Yes.
I use. And so you can Google me, and you can find me. So yeah, the book is in the Holocaust Museum, supposedly, in Washington, D.C.
That's great.
And
So,
everywhere books are sold.
well, Roni, I want to thank you so much for coming on. Pleasure getting to know you, getting to talk to you. And thank you. Welcome back anytime.
Same. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Again, this has been The Jewish Lens. I'm Jonathan Rosen. Again, a very special thanks to Roni Robbins. The book is Hands of Gold. And please like, comment, and subscribe.
Thanks for tuning in to The Jewish Lens, where all items used was strictly kosher.